Welcome back to Mysterious Goings On, Chapter 23. I'm your host, J. Alexander Greenwood, and we are talking about Trek with our good friend Mike from Racine. He's at Zoofster on Twitter. We're going to wrap up our Trek talk, and I promise, hand fully splayed in Vulcan salute to God, that we'll stop talking Trek on Mysterious Goings On after this one, at least for a while. But I had so much fun with Mike, thought we'd have him back to finish our discussion about the Star Trek film. So I hope you enjoy it. Love to hear what you think. But for now, away we go.
Mr. Data, what kind of cake is this?
It is a cellular peptide cake.
But meant frosting.
Which led us into, everybody knows Spock gets rejoined with his soul, so to speak. McCoy is...
Katra, come on.
Katra, and McCoy is rendered McCoy again, and all is right with the world, but they don't have a ship.
Ship out of danger?
Oh, exactly. But they're on the HMS Bounty, which is a Klingon bird of prey that they stole from Krug, and because the Enterprise was gone, and then it leads us to Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home. Thoughts on that movie?
I'd say it's one of the better ones, but I think this one is one that a lot of people think is the best.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
It has that because it has it appeals to, I think, non-fans as well.
I think it has huge
It's very
appeal.
accessible. It's very accessible, and I think that's why it gets that. It's also very funny. I like it a lot. It's fish out of water stories are always entertaining, and saying a double dumbass on you, as Kirk would say, getting the hang of the curse words.
That was hilarious. And when Spock puts the neck pinch on the punk on the bus, that's really great. That's really great. I hate you, I berate you. That song, I remember that. Yeah, I have to confess, I don't love that movie. I know, I don't. I find it really, really indulgent on their part, and they're entitled, and that's fine. Yeah. And I think you're totally right. It's very accessible for people who aren't.
And I think that's what they were going for.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. And so all props. I don't enjoy rewatching it though. I think it looks cheesy in so many ways that I just don't care for. And I don't. Catherine Hicks, I thought, overacts through the whole thing, and it really puts me off. I'm very easily put off by performance on a movie, I must admit. But
some days you get the bear, and some days the bear gets you.
I've actually, it was a few years after the movie came out. My family went on a vacation to California, and I had an opportunity to go to the Monterey Aquarium where all those scenes were filmed.
Yeah, and we're
George and Gracie and all that. Yeah,
what's it like?
I've been there. I saw that. It was pretty cool.
Do they have any signage that says Star Trek 4?
They didn't at the time, but I mean, you could totally recognize the front, the inside. The main pool, they did some superimposing. It's not the emptied pool when they let them go. Mm-hmm. That's what it really looks like all the time. When it's full.
Yeah.
Before they, that's all movie magic.
Oh. Now, I love this scene where Nimoy is doing the mind meld with the whale and swimming in there. Oh my God, that is so funny. I think it's great, and it kept the series moving, which leads us to Shatner's directorial debut, Star Trek V.
There's nothing about you I find tantalizing. On the contrary, I find you obvious and vulgar.
That movie gets a lot of crap, but
it sure does.
I enjoy
parts of it.
Parts of it, not necessarily them singing or talking about marshmallows.
Marshmallows, that's
but
hilarious.
I enjoy just the interactions between the three of them on the ship. I like when they come back After they've, returned to the ship after he was climbing the mountain, and him and Shatner and Nimoy hop on the turbo lift, and Shatner goes, "I need a shower," and Spock just kind of looks over at him and goes, "Yes."
That's so perfect.
I don't know why that cracks me up all the time.
You totally nailed it, though. That movie, if nothing else, it brought back the Trinity's
character.
The way the characters, the three, interacted with each other. I mean, it did a nice job with that. And introducing the idea of the Kirk saying, I always known I'll die alone. And then there's that. And the parts I do like about it, and God, if I ever write a John Pilot novel where he has a long-lost stepbrother, I'm done, by the way, because that is the worst trope in the movies or TV.
Laughing Vulcan?
Yeah.
Sybok, the Laughing Vulcan?
The Laughing Vulcan. Although, that initial scene where he rides up on the guy who's got the field full of holes, and then he pulls back his hood, and he's Laughing Vulcan. I mean, it does kind of work, but anyway. You're sitting left there thinking, what the heck? Yeah, I mean, you're interested, right? And then you got
absolutely.
Kirk, being Macho Man and falling off, and the jet boots don't work. It's just dumb. I don't care for the jet boots.
Yeah.
It's just dumb.
It's not filmed the best either.
No, looks rough.
Yeah, it's not. Yeah, and the whole end is rough. But there was budget cuts, and he didn't have. I mean, I don't know if more money would have made it better. It would have made the effects a little bit better. But I don't know if it would have made the story.
The story was
better.
The effects house was not their usual one. They couldn't get ILM, and so they used kind of a discount effects house. I mean, the effects are bad.
Anything outside of ILM is kind of a discount house, isn't it?
That's a great point. It's a really great point. But I mean, they're just pretty bad. There's a germ of an idea in there somewhere, I don't know, but it just didn't seem to gel. So for me, what works for it are the character moments. The plot does not work. There are some who say, and they do it with a straight face, they don't mean it like it to be smartassy. They say Star Trek V is actually a dream. Life is but a dream. And they're saying it actually is a dream that Kirk has while they're out camping. And it never really happens. There's a lot of people I could live with that.
I could live with that.
I could totally live with that. Couldn't you? I mean, Uhura's fan dance. Nichelle Nichols is a very attractive woman.
That.
But she was pushing 60 about that time, and Now, of course, Spock does another great neck pinch on a horse. That was good and funny. Yeah. They totally waste an incredibly good actor, David Warner, in a nonsense, boring role as the Earth.
But you know what? He's going to come back in Star Trek 6.
Which is really good. Okay, so what else in 5, though? Stupid part. The best part of 5, though, in my opinion, and then you tell me, when Sybok has this ability, by the way, to help people take their pain out and deal with it.
I want my pain. I need my
pain.
It's mine.
Exactly. Kirk has a great line there, and he's like, "What? You want to tell me I should have gone left when I went right? I know that." Well, all that stuff. But they go through it, and Spock's pain is showing his birth. There is a nice overdub from the late Mark. He played Sarah. Mark Leonard. Thank you. And so human. And they did that with a lookalike. So Spock's birth was that, but McCoy's. This is the best scene. McCoy, whose dad was dying of a rare disease, and he relieved him of his suffering by letting him die. He took out the life support, and then they found out soon after they found a damn cure.
Yeah.
I thought DeForest Kelley really did a nice job with that. I really did.
Absolutely.
Do you think so?
Yeah, he's great. I think so. Yeah.
I think it was the best moment, and then that whole little triptych, that whole scene, and then Shatner's Kirk saying, "I want my pain. I need my pain," like you said. The thing that was really offensive to me about that movie, beyond a lot of things, was making Scotty into an ass. Hitting his head. Is that the one
where he runs into the bulkhead?
Yeah, hitting his. I know this shit like the back of my ball.
Back of my hand.
I'm
just that for a cheap laugh.
Well, that's something they do in the new movies, which we'll get to in a little bit, is they make Scotty into a figure of fun, and I don't care for that because I remember Scotty as the dude who.
But at least Simon Pegg is a comedian, and there's some.
True.
I'm not saying it's like good, but it's somehow, because he's a comedian, it's a little more acceptable, maybe.
I think so. I think you're right.
I agree with you. I don't think he should be the butt of the joke.
You just think back to the original
Especially
series.
it's a cheap laugh too. I mean, it's not even. If you're going to make him a butt of a joke, make it a good joke. Don't make him just walking into
to be a freaking klutz,
like a dumbass.
Well, I mean, I just think back to Scotty, who he was the guy when they'd leave him. If Kirk and Spock were gone, Scotty was in charge, and there was more than one occasion where Scotty took pulled their asses out of the fire.
Right,
and he was a tough son of a bitch, and you didn't mess with Scotty, and nobody could outdrink him. And then you get him in Star Trek V, and he's a doddering old idiot. And I was just like, I don't like that. And then and then the thing where he and Uhura apparently have a thing, and they're eating
that was kind
bags
of like
of chips together.
There was nothing to. I mean, it just kind of all of a sudden was there.
Boom.
There was no build up to it.
Yeah, I mean. There was more chemistry between Uhura and Spock in the original series than there was between Uhura and Scotty. That's not saying anything.
Right.
So anyway, that bugged me, but all right, whatever. So 5 ends with all's well that ends well. Cybox sacrifices himself so they can get away. And speaking of budget, though, had they had more budget, they wouldn't have had this godhead thing they fought. They would have actually had rock creatures,
rock monsters.
Have you seen the video of the rock monster that they did make?
I don't believe I have.
You haven't? Get on YouTube. Star Trek V.
What? It's on YouTube? You're kidding.
On YouTube, there is test footage of the rock monster.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's to me, it's better than a head shooting flames out of its eyeballs.
Right.
But anyway, the tragic thing too is that Shatner about 10 years ago went back to Paramount hat in hand and said, "Look, give me a little budget, let me do a director's cut."
Yeah, for the special edition.
And they wouldn't.
They were like, no. I read something the other day that he kind of apologized for Star Trek V, recently. I don't think he has to. I mean, it is what it is. It didn't kill the show.
No.
It
was kind of like all right, let's get Shatner's out of the way.
And we're so far beyond that now too.
Yeah.
So who cares at this point?
Yeah. So it led to what is arguably, because I'm with you on this one, Mike. I mean, Star Trek 6 and Star Trek 2, it's like neck and neck. You catch me on the right day, and 6 is my favorite.
And 6 has got a phenomenal soundtrack. I recommend you checking that out. I've had that CD for 25 years.
I got to get some homework
now. It's great, especially the opening title credit.
Oh yeah.
It's just it's building. Dun, 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 it's awesome.
Well, it builds in the menace of the Klingons. The Klingon menace is back, and it's because in Star Trek V they also committed the sin of making the Klingons laughable.
Yeah.
Okay, but enough about 5. Sorry. Go back to 6, where the Klingons are
6
again.
I love, and it obviously paralleled the Iron Curtain coming down and the Berlin Wall.
Right.
And it's very timely, and it was like the great Spock line about the Vulcan proverb that only Nixon can go to China.
Right. So well done.
Yeah.
And
and that whole scene, with Spock and Kirk, where they're talking about it. He's like, I never forgave him for the death of my son. They're dying. Let them die. That's just like that whole back and forth.
That's excellent. It's
excellent. It's intense in its own way.
And Shatner restrains himself enough where it's not histrionic, and
Yeah.
and Nimoy has to underplay everything, but you can just see it under the surface. It's all in his eyes, and So I thought that was. I agree with you. I think that was so good, and I know that Brock Peters, who played Admiral Cartwright, had a little problem turning Admiral Cartwright into kind of a racist or homophobic, whatever. He wasn't homophobic. He was xenophobic. Thank you.
You go.
He had problems with that. Yeah. I'm not a writer. He had some issues with that, but it made sense. And they had Rene Auberjonois, who went on to be on Odo in Deep Space Nine. He played Colonel West, who was obviously an Ollie North character, but they cut a lot of his stuff out, I think, in various.
Yeah, but it's all there in the extended edition.
Which
it's clear that he's the one that was shooting the gun,
and he tells the president, "We'll clean their chronometers, sir,"
yes.
and all that. And there's.
But we got Chang, the great Christopher Plummer,
Oscar winner,
the bald-headed, eye patch wearing, Shakespeare spouting general for the Klingons. He's absolutely perfect in that movie.
You have not experienced Shakespeare until you have read him in the original Klingon.
He seems to be having a blast.
Cry havoc, and let's slip the dogs of war.
He seems to be having a freaking blast playing Chang.
I'd give real money if he'd shut up.
Here he is. Shatner asked him to do the part. Shatner, now they're both Canadian, and Shatner actually understudied for Plummer back in the day, and they've known each other forever. And as I recall from what I read, now listeners, if I'm wrong, let me know at @A_Greenwood on Twitter. But I believe he asked Plummer. I think probably Shatner made it pretty clear. Scenery chewing is allowed. Enjoy it, and the whole line about in the original Klingon, Shakespeare in the original Klingon, and pretty pitch perfect throughout. It's lighted well. Kim Cattrall's Valeris is an interesting character. So you tell me, if Valeris was supposed to be Saavik, did they offer it to one of the?
They ended up deciding that Saavik was a beloved character, and they couldn't have her do that.
Have her turn bad. Well,
they could not do that. That's why they ended up not making it, changing it from Saavik to Valeris.
Did you see the deleted scene from Star Trek II that pretty well indicates that Saavik and David, Captain Kirk's son, who by the way was killed by Klingons in Star Trek III, they got it on apparently? Did you see that deleted scene?
I probably have at some point.
Yeah. So there was that, and then of course she helped the Spock in Star Trek III as it was growing through Pon farr. Right. So you're right. She had, there was a lot invested, pardon the joke, in her.
And I'm okay. I don't think I would have liked it if she was the bad guy.
I think you're right.
I don't know.
I think you're right. Yeah, I think you're right. It would have been interesting, but you know what? Actually, it might have seemed a little obvious had she done that. You know what I mean? As from a writing standpoint, it would have been like, oh, let's take somebody we all love and turn him in. Well, it's kind of like what the X-Files did recently, where they turned Monica Reyes into basically a Vichy government. That really pissed me off, by the way.
I don't.
Oh, that's another show, isn't it?
Do we want to talk about the last season of?
Yeah, we do actually, and that's
remember I told you I have In a Darkness rage over that last episode.
We are going to have to. I'm going to have you back to talk about X-Files. Is that a deal? Are you interested? You got to come back.
We could do that. We could do that.
All right.
But other great things in 6, we got Iman as the shapeshifter.
Why can't every woman be like Iman?
And we got the large alien that has its genitals in the front of its legs or in its knees.
Yeah.
Remember that? What else we got? We got a good mystery on the ship. Who did it? And there was twists and turns, and when you think you found out who did it, you didn't. You didn't. Yeah. And you got a blink and you missed it cameo by Christian Slater.
Yes. Yes, you do.
You got Sulu on the Excelsior, and
she'll fly apart, sir. I'll fly her apart then.
He looks excellent as captain of that ship, and it's great. So many good things about that one. I just like it all. I like it all around. I always, Spock slaps that little tracking device on the back. and every time I watch it now, I can't, after seeing it the first time, I always see him when he reaches around and pats him on the back. It's always there. And
I'm always...
they didn't cheat. They didn't cheat. They show it quite clearly.
I know, but I'm always thinking, too, it's like, did nobody notice, like, what looks to me like an obvious piece of Velcro that got stuck on his back? But, but you're right, because if they made it obvious for a reason. They weren't just, it wasn't,
people were going to go back and nitpick.
Exactly.
I know, and I know what you're saying. A nitpicking Star Trek fan, you've heard everything now. But so this was a great way to end the original series.
And they all signed off.
And if you look in the credits, Nichelle Nichols is credited as Uhuru. Uhuru.
No.
Yes.
No.
Yes. Somebody did not do their due diligence to get that. Uhuru. They spelled it wrong.
That is so messed up. I got to go look at that.
Am I displaying enough nerdy tidbits for you?
Well, I like it. I was going to say, I'm glad.
Of course, that's the last we'll see of that cast, more or less. And, of course, Captain Kirk is going to come back, though.
Well, they wanted, for Generations, which was the bridge between the old or the original cast and the new cast being brought in. Actually, they wanted it to be Kirk, Spock, and McCoy, and I remember reading Nimoy was like, those lines could have been spoken by any character, and so they were.
Yes.
And DeForest Kelley, I think, was ill and was really not up to it.
I think so at that time, yeah.
He died of cancer not too long after that. Yeah, so they have Scotty and Chekhov show up for Generations, and if you watch it, it's like Chekhov is like going to go down to sick bay and take care of people. It's like, well, that was obviously supposed to be McCoy's thing, and I will say this,
and he's got a hell of a lot of makeup on in his scenes. It's like caked on.
It's caked on.
It looks really bad,
and the really bad toupe. I mean, he's never had a good toupe anyway, but he looked.
But
totally. Well, and if there's one good line where Scotty has that Jimmy Doohan does a nice job.
Something wrong with your seat, Captain?
Right, but you could just hear Nimoy doing it better because he would have been Spock saying something wrong with your seat, Captain. But Doohan does a great job.
And that movie was great too because it gave us the Enterprise B. We'd seen C in Next Generation's Yesterday's Enterprise. It gave us Enterprise B, captained by Cameron.
Yes, from Ferris Bueller.
Ferris Bueller's Alan Ruck.
Alan Ruck, who is you're just sitting there going, who's his dad that he got a captaincy? Because this guy does not seem... I mean, I'm being a little rough on it.
It doesn't help that everything was going to be installed next Tuesday.
On Tuesday, yeah. and that's true. It's a soft launch. I mean, it wasn't supposed to be a rescue mission. It's just like a spin around the block, But remember the reporters with their little headgear and the cheesy flashlights? That just looked ridiculous. Yeah, there were so many cheesy aspects. This will put a nice bow on this discussion because it's the end of Kirk. So
I was going to say, if you want to do the rest of them in another podcast, I'm game for that.
I think we should bring you back.
Destruct sequence completed and engaged.
Yeah.
Kirk's death in Generations.
Kind of went out like a bitch.
Talk about a bridge to the Next Generation.
There's better ways he could have gone. His
initial death when he went into the Nexus, that would have been okay.
Because he died
alone and on a ship.
Saving the ship. Yeah. Right. The second death was like, well, okay, we got to kill him off.
Yeah.
How are we going to do this?
Right.
I don't know how that. I mean, I don't know what would have been a better way, but.
I just always saw him before this movie. I always saw him in the chair. Well, you know how I saw him go? I saw him go the way George Kirk went in Star Trek: The Reboot. I saw him going like that, in the captain's chair, saving everyone else, like giving them cover. That's how I saw him go, not punching out Alex from Clockwork Orange on a rickety old metallic.
I like Malcolm McDowell. The story of Generations is kind of weak too, because ultimately, you know how Guinan's in the Nexus, to help out
right.
Picard. Well, so was Soren. I mean, they were both on the same ship.
Right.
That put him in there. So, I mean, in a sense, he's already there.
There's a lot of holes in that. And Ronald D. Moore co-wrote this.
And so, in fact, he goes back in a second time there, really, you know.
Right.
So it's like, well, once you're in, you're in.
Yeah.
So I don't know that the bad guy's lost, really.
And how,
even
yeah, exactly. And how come Picard could just say, I don't want to be here and get out?
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of holes. The crashing of the ship was amazing, though.
Gotta admit, when it hit,
Lursa and B'Etor were amusing. I guess
I like it when Malcolm McDowell would wave like a hand in front of their breath because they stink so bad with their breath. Oh, I love that.
Yeah.
Initiating a mating ritual.
Data utters the immortal line, "Oh shit."
That was good. Although the emotion chip though, and the life forms, did he? Oh, that.
The life forms.
It did not work for me. Where?
Yeah.
Yeah, it didn't. Brent Spiner. We'll have to get into this next time. Brent Spiner to me is. I like him, but I think he really needs to be reined in a little bit. And if he's not reined in, you're going to get. Well, just watch Datalore and
yes, but he's excellent in First Contact.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Well, that would be the best TNG movie, would it or would it not to you?
I would say yeah. I mean, what would you put up against?
Well, Nemesis,
not
of course.
Nemesis is better than Insurrection.
Nemesis is better than Star Trek Into Darkness, and Nemesis also rips off Wrath of Khan.
Yes.
But it does it better. And I think, you know what, for our next discussion...
Well, it's not so blatant.
It's not. It's layered. And you know what, when we get into the next... we should talk about how Nemesis, I think, kind of gets a shitty rap compared to Insurrection, especially.
It does. Yeah, it does.
Tom Hardy. You got Tom Hardy. I mean, come on.
Yeah, before he was famous. Bane, for God's sakes. And you could understand him.
I am Gotham's rectum. Whatever he says, I don't know. You know, Mike, this has flown by.
I am amazing, I know.
You are. This is fun. I'm having a great time.
Goodbye, Jean-Luc. I'm going to miss you. You had such potential. But then again, all good things must come to an end.
I'll tell you what, I'd really like to have you back.
Absolutely.
We'll talk more off air. And if people kind of want to interact with you and challenge your opinions or pat you on the back, is Twitter the best way to find you?
Twitter's probably I'd say so. At Zoofster, Z or Z, if you're Canadian. OOFSTER.
Jason McIntyre, that would be for you, the Z.
Yes, Jason. I enjoy your podcast, and Jason is one of my favorite guests you've had on. I know he's been on a couple times, at least 2 or 3, right?
Yeah, he's just a blast.
He's excellent. Haven't gotten his. I got so many books to read, but I'm that Dovetail Cove. It's calling to me. I can hear it.
Dude, I've not read all of the Dovetail Coves, but I've read several. And
are they all out, or is it just a few of them right now?
He's just now putting the bow on the last one, but I don't know if they're all. Ooh, now you called me out, and he's like a buddy of mine. Tell you what, we'll have him on soon to talk about it, give us an update on that. But man, he'll be thrilled to hear that you may be on the edge of being a fan. And I love having him on the show. He's a great guy, and you're a great guy. And again, one more time, Twitter, you are at Zoofster, ZOOFSTER. Okay, I love your feed because you have great info on sci-fi and pop culture, and sometimes just irreverent, funny shit, and it's really great.
Thank you.
You have honored us. You've honored me, and sincerely, I'm not pandering at all. I mean, I've already gotten an hour of material out of you, so I could just say farewell. But I want to thank you again for being a reader of the John Pilot Mysteries and for being a supporter.
No problem. Well, thanks for writing good books, because God, it would suck if I'm plugging through them and they suck, But no, thanks for writing good stuff. I appreciate that.
Oh, my brother, thank you.
And I know next time I come back, you're going to have a firm date for me on the next one.
I'll make that deal with you. I'll have a firm date for you. If you want to, of course, if you want to catch up with me, I'm on Twitter at @A_Greenwood, just like it sounds. Don't forget the mothership at pilotscross.com. That's PILATESCROSS.com. Yeah, I know. I should have thought it out before I bought the URL. That's the mothership. I'm also on Facebook at John Pilate Mysteries, and that's John, like typical spelling, Pilate, Pilate, the Roman governor who washed his hands of something really not very nice. That is going to do it for Mysterious Goings On with our good friend Mike from Racine, Wisconsin. Shout out to him and all his friends at Tangled Hickory. A shout out. They're not in Racine, but
thank you. They're in Viroqua, which is by Wisconsin Dells. It's a great wine bar. My best friend runs it.
Tangled Hickory.
If you're in the area, stop in, tell Mike sent you, and they'll take good care of you. Or shoot me something on Twitter, and maybe I can hook you up with a deal there.
Yeah, just say I'm a listener to Mysterious Goings On. But here's the deal: if I head that direction, you and I, my brother, are going to get together. Now, you do know I drink copious amounts of alcohol when I get together, so you're just going to have to.
That's okay. I've been known to drink copious amounts of alcohol pretty much every time I go up there.
Well,
I make her drive me home. Because that way I have no responsibility.
She's a great pal. I'll give you that, man. Well, Mike, it's been a pleasure. I could go on forever. Thanks again, and to you listeners, thanks for joining us. I hope you'll check our back catalog, and if you're enjoying what you're hearing, a review on iTunes makes a huge difference, and I'll just tell you why real quick. You may know that when this show was initially launched, we were named a new and noteworthy podcast. Our downloads went through the roof. That fades out. They stop putting you on that list. And then after that, iTunes basically says sink or swim on your own. And the way they judge that is on do you have reviews, and lots of them. So if you want this show to do better and to get more listeners and get more reviews, we need you 5 or 6 listeners who regularly download this show to leave a review on iTunes. If you have any questions about it, let me know. Again, I am J. Alexander Greenwood. This has been Mike from Racine, one of my favorite guests on the show, and until next time, keep reading.
Space, the final frontier. These are the continuing voyages of the Starship Enterprise. Her ongoing mission to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life forms and new civilizations, to boldly go where no man has gone before.
It's a great time to get a great deal on a new car when you get approved for an auto loan from PenFed. Our Powered by True Car rates are as low as 1.39% APR on new vehicles. Finance for a longer term to lower your monthly bill. Plus, take up to 60 days to schedule your first payment. Join PenFed, and together we'll keep you moving forward. Anyone can apply. Visit penfed.org/auto or call 1-800-247-5626. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA. From regular expenses to occasional splurges, there's a lot to buy. Why not get cash back every time you spend? With the PenFed Power Cash Rewards Card, you get cash back on every purchase. That's everywhere, every time you use it. You can even earn a $100 statement credit when you spend $1,500 in the first 90 days. Visit penfed.org/powercash to apply. To receive any advertised product, you must become a member of PenFed, insured by NCUA.